What's up everyone, Dr. Jacob Wilson here, the Muscle Ph.D. We're going to talk today about anabolic steroids. What are they? Do they work? Etc. So let's talk about anabolic steroids. It's a very controversial topic, right? A lot of bodybuilders utilize them. First, let's talk about the hormone testosterone. So that is the male's #1 hormone, right? And testosterone, in fact, is obviously way higher in men than women. It's like 40 times higher in men than women, right? And because it's created from the testes, it's called testosterone. Now, testosterone has been around as an ergogenic aid for a long time. In fact, like even back in the Greek-Roman days, you actually had warriors and physicians trying to extract it from animals. The biggest thing to understand though is that testosterone makes men the way they are. Like, it's the reason why they get in fights and wars. You know, we're playing John Madden football. You know, you might throw the controller across the room, right? You know, or why we paint ourselves when we go to sporting events. That aggressive component to us, that deep voice, that's testosterone. There's two components to testosterone. There's the anabolic component and there's the androgenic component. So what do I mean? Well, the anabolic component is what I think everyone knows. What's anabolism? Growth, right? That's what makes us grow. It makes us get bigger. So one of the reasons why females don't gain as much muscle as males is because males have more testosterone. One of the reasons why someone who's 65 may not gain as much muscle as someone who's 25, a large reason for that is testosterone. Also, what we know is that testosterone has a lot of neural effects as well, and it may be linked to some of the anabolic agent component of it, but basically there's a lot of research from a researcher named Bosco who shows that short-term elevations in testosterone make us more powerful. Right? So like if we know we're gonna go do a jump or do something explosive or doing a heavy day, testosterone might increase before that and make us feel more powerful. You ever feel like you're taking a weight off your chest and it just feels like a penny that day? That's high rate of force development, high power output. That high power output is related to testosterone. Testosterone has neural effects, and it's not just in our brains, like the aggression that we get, but it's also that, you know, explosiveness that we feel in the gym so we can lift more weight. Now, there's also the androgenic components of testosterone. The androgenic components are the leaning out components, we would say, like what makes us hard, vascular, dry. But the androgenic components also have a lot of the negative components, male pattern baldness, right? So if someone's taking testosterone for a long time, they can get baldness, right? Things that are related to things like prostate cancer. That's more of the androgenic component of testosterone. For example, when people are taking stuff to prevent male pattern baldness, they're actually trying to block the androgenic component, okay? Now that you know what testosterone is, we know that it's important for muscle growth. Why? Because it increases protein synthesis. Also, testosterone seems to increase what's called insulin-like growth factor in the muscle. And insulin-like growth factor is like something very important for muscle growth, IGF-1. Most of you guys have heard of IGF-1. Growth hormone works by increasing IGF-1 in the blood. Testosterone can work by increasing IGF-1, more importantly, in the muscle. Also, everyone's heard of cortisol, right? Cortisol could be, people think, oh no, cortisol, I'm gonna lose muscle, right? Well, testosterone basically what we call antagonizes or stops cortisol from binding to its receptors and causing catabolism. So we know all these things about testosterone. We definitely know that if you take testosterone, there's not a lot of studies on this, but when you take testosterone in studies, we do see a dose-dependent increase in muscle growth, okay? We also know that if you look at studies where people train like pansies and they take testosterone, they don't get nowhere near as many gains they can get. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna refer you another question where we talked about how much muscle can you gain naturally versus how much muscle can you gain with testosterone. You'll see that basically if you're training hard naturally and you have great genetics, you can outdo the guy who's taking steroids and training like a pansy, okay? So testosterone doesn't do the work for you. You have to put in the work, right? Because what's the real point of testosterone is if it's increasing protein synthesis, if it's improving recovery, you need to use that, right? In other words, like, if you're not training hard, what's the point of improving your recovery? You know what I mean? So I think that's a big point you have to understand. Now, before I get into agents, I just want everyone to know that, look, I'm not recommending this. I'm basically just saying this is what testosterone does, this is what steroids do. Consult your doctor to understand more about this. So let's talk about this. We know that they're anabolic, right? So what happens is, in a laboratory, scientists will take testosterone, and if you just gave testosterone right away, and there's different ways you can take it. You can take it orally, or you can take them injectably, right? In injectable form. Steroids are derivatives, or steroids are modifications of the male hormone testosterone, okay? And it's made to do a number of things. Either A, enhance a certain component of testosterone, okay? In other words, scientists may try and enhance the anabolic effects and minimize the androgenic effects of testosterone. You know, for example, so you can get the anabolic components but not have the male pattern baldness, right? On the other hand, scientists may try and optimize the androgenic component so you get more of the hardness vascular effects. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things of testosterone, right? So a lot of the oral testosterone derivatives are actually mass builders, but the problem with them, of course, is you can only take oral derivatives of testosterone or steroids for a short period of time because they filter through your liver. And when you filter through the liver, you can have serious liver problems. In fact, probably the most toxic, dangerous forms of anabolic steroids you can take are the oral kind. And the main reason is because your liver's got to filter it out, and that's going to cause serious health problems. So bodybuilders are turning to that. They need to do blood work constantly. They need to look at themselves constantly. They need to take things that help liver function, like milk thistle, for example, and a bunch of other things that help your liver. You're gonna need to take that because your liver's everything. It's important for your immune functions, filtering everything. So let's say that you downgrade your liver. Now all of a sudden you're gonna get sick every 5 seconds, right? It's gonna counter everything that you want, okay? And a failed liver is like, you're gonna die. Okay, so it's not something you wanna mess with, but just understand that there's a lot of anabolic oral ones, but of course there's some that aren't anabolic, but no matter what you're taking, you have to be conscious about your liver. The injectables are trying to bypass that. You have injectables that are fast acting, and then you have injectables where they add an ester to it that's very long acting ester, and that means it stays around in your blood for weeks sometimes. Those types of anabolic steroids, you take, let's say, once, and maybe you don't have to inject again for 1 to 2 weeks, okay? Or something that's more fast acting, you might have to take every other day, okay? So those are those, and you have to understand what you're taking. Now, as far as some of the effects of them, of course, you're gonna grow, you'll get bigger, you'll be stronger, you'll be more aggressive, but you need to understand their side effects as well. If I'm taking a hormone, my own natural production of testosterone will go down. And what I will tell you is everyone's different in how they rebound, okay? Obviously, there are side effects of testosterone. Besides lowering your normal testosterone, again, you can have things like enlarged prostate or in danger of prostate cancer. You can have cardiac hypertrophy, which will lead to future cardiac events. Because of this, bodybuilders can't stay on testosterone their whole life, okay? Not at high levels, and not at very, very high levels because of these side effects, okay? Basically, if you're abusing anabolic steroids like any other drug, or even aspirin, for example, any drug you abuse can cause serious problems and you can't die. Bodybuilders avoid this by cycling. They go on shorter cycles of testosterone and then come off, okay? The longer you're on testosterone, the more suppressed and shut down you'll be. And so you have to understand that, because if you're a bodybuilder and your aspirations are just going to put on size, or I'm just going to take testosterone because I want to look good for the girls, that's probably not the best reason to take testosterone, just because when you take it, it's going to suppress you and shut you down. When you come off testosterone, your testosterone levels are going to plummet. Now, you can take what we call post-cycle therapy, okay? And those are things that basically block the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. They stimulate things like luteinizing hormone, which stimulates testosterone. And that can get the system going again, but everyone's different. There are people who have taken, and there's research studies that have looked at people who have taken testosterone and been shut down, and a year later, 2 years later, they're still not up to baseline levels. You have to ask yourself, is that something you're prepared for? Because sometimes bodybuilders who even do 1 or 2 cycles end up having to go on testosterone replacement therapy the rest of their life. So you need to understand that, hey, I'm stepping into this window, and that's what I have to consider when I'm making that move. In other words, like if I'm just gonna do it because I wanna look good and I'm not competing, you need to ask yourself, is that worth it? Because when you come off, you may lose a lot of muscle because you're shut down, or you may have to go on a testosterone replacement the rest of your life. That's something you need to understand as well. Other side effects that we have is testosterone can convert to estrogen, okay? And guys the bro who goes in the gym, they're like, hey, you know, bro, I'm just gonna get jacked, I'm gonna take testosterone. Well, if they take testosterone, they have no idea that can convert over to estrogen, right? You're going to retain water, and also you may develop breast tissue, okay? And the only way to reverse that is to get surgery. Okay, maybe you can reverse it by taking like high dose anti-estrogens, right? But again, still, or like aromatase inhibitors that might help it, but in the same token, you may have to revert to surgery. So you need to do your homework before doing anything, okay? Now, that being said, bodybuilders will typically take things that are more anabolic at the beginning of a bulk cycle, and then as they go down, the problem with those very anabolic ones is they do convert over to estrogen, and you tend to hold water and sometimes fat. As they near their contest, they'll drop out the more anabolic and move to more of the androgenic compounds, and those make you harder and vascular before the contest. You shed all the water, okay? Biggest thing to understand, let's review this. Anabolic steroids, there's a large responsibility when someone is considering them. I'm not telling you to consider them, saying that there's a large responsibility and that people need to do their research on them. Yes, they're anabolic. Yes, if you are training your behind off, you will grow a lot, okay? But there are side effects that come along with them. You need to understand those, and you need to manage them properly, including the estrogen side effects. You need to understand if your family has a history of male pattern baldness. You need to understand that when you come off testosterone, if you do nothing, you're gonna be shut down for a long time, maybe years. You need to understand there's things like post-cycle therapy, things that stimulate the testes to start releasing testosterone again, things that block the conversion of testosterone to estrogen so your normal testosterone rise up, etc. And finally, guys, testosterone's not a free ticket. You see these pro bodybuilders who are huge on stage. Testosterone or anabolic steroids is not what got them on stage being monsters. What got them on stage was having great, amazing work ethic, you know, amazing diet, amazing sleep, phenomenal genetics, and then anabolic steroids on top of that was an aid to that type of regimen, okay? If you do not have that regimen and you're like, I think anabolic steroids are an easy way out, you're setting yourself up for failure, and you're probably setting yourself just to be the guy who's shut down for the next couple years because you didn't do your homework. So guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.